There was no phone beside my bed. There was no alarm clock to ring. I woke up only because the sunlight came through the thin curtains. The bed was small and the blanket was heavy. It kept me warm during the night, but the room was still very cold. I sat up slowly. My back felt stiff from the hard mattress. The room was quiet. There was no sound of traffic, no sound of machines. Only the soft call of a bird outside the window. I washed my face with cold water. There was no bathroom, no sink, no hot shower. On a small wooden table, there was a bowl filled with water. I put my hands inside. The water was icy and it made me shiver. I splashed the water on my face. I felt more awake, but also colder. Then I got dressed. I did not wear jeans or a t-shirt. Those clothes did not exist in my world. I wore a simple white shirt. I pulled it over my head and buttoned it. I put on my brown trousers. It was made of thick fabric. On my feet, I wore heavy boots. The clothes were not new. They had small holes and old stitching. But they were strong. They kept me safe during the day. I opened the window. The air came in. It was fresh but cold. The street outside was quiet. A horse passed by. The horse was pulling a wooden cart filled with vegetables. There were no buses. It was the start of a new day in the past. After I dressed, I went into the kitchen. The kitchen was small. There was a wooden table in the center. There was no fridge. There was no electric light. The only light came from the window. On the table, there was bread, butter, and a jug of milk. The bread was hard and brown. It was baked the day before. The butter was soft but a little salty. The milk was fresh. I sat down, and my family sat with me. We did not have plates for everyone. We shared. I cut a piece of bread. I spread butter on it with a small knife. The butter melted slowly because the bread was still a little warm. I drank a cup of milk. It was creamy and thick. It tasted different from the milk today. It was natural, without sugar. My father ate quietly. He had worked late the night before. My little sister chewed her bread slowly. She looked at me and smiled. The room was simple, but we were together, and that made it warm. After breakfast, I left the house. I put on my coat because the air was cold. I said goodbye to my family and I walked outside. The street was made of stones. My boots made a loud sound with every step. I did not take a bus. I did not drive a car. There were no buses. There were no cars. I walked. I always walked. On the way, I saw a woman sweeping the front step with a broom. I saw a boy carrying a bucket of water from the well. Two old men sat on a bench. They were talking slowly. The morning air was fresh. The smell of bread came from the bakery. The smell of horses came from the street. I walked for 30 minutes. The factory was at the edge of the town. When I arrived, I saw many other workers going inside. The factory was big. The walls were dark with smoke. Inside, the machines were loud. They made a constant, heavy sound. The air was thick. It was difficult to breathe. I worked with many other men. Some carried wood. Some worked with metal. Some pushed carts from one side to the other. I carried boxes and moved heavy pieces of wood. It was hard work. My hands became red. My shirt became dirty with dust. The boss walked between us. He wore a hat and carried a stick. He did not speak much. He looked at everyone carefully. We worked for hours without stopping. At midday, we had a short break. I sat on the floor. I ate bread and cheese from my pocket. I drank water from a small metal cup. Then I stood up and worked again. The hours were long. My back hurt. But I continued because I had no choice. In the past, life was hard and work was necessary. When the bell rang, we stopped. The day's work was finished. So I left the factory. My clothes were dirty. My boots were heavy. I walked home slowly. The sun was lower in the sky. The air was cooler. On the street, children were playing with a ball made of cloth. They laughed and shouted. A group of women washed clothes in buckets of water. They rubbed the clothes hard and talked together. A man sold apples from a cart. People stood in line to buy some. The smell of food came from open windows. As I walked, I looked at the sky. It changed from blue to orange and then red. The colors were beautiful, but they also told me that night was coming. When I arrived home, the house looked warm. Smoke came from the chimney. I opened the door and stepped inside. Inside the house, the fire was burning in the fireplace. The room felt warm after the cold outside. The table was ready for dinner. Dinner was simple: soup, bread, and some vegetables. The soup was hot. It smelled of onions and carrots. I dipped my bread into the soup and I ate slowly. My family sat around the table. We talked about our day. My father spoke about his work. My mother spoke about the house. We laughed sometimes, even when we were tired. After dinner, we stayed together. There was no television. There was no radio. We talked. We told stories. My father told us about his childhood. He used his hands to show us how he played in the fields long ago. My little sister played with her doll. My brother cleaned his boots for the next day. The fire cracked in the fireplace. The candle gave us light. The shadows moved slowly on the wall. Later, the house became quiet. The fire became small. The candle became short. We all became sleepy. I went to my room. The bed was small and the blanket was heavy. I put the blanket over me and I felt warm again. Outside, the night was silent. There were no cars, no machines, only the sound of the wind. I closed my eyes. I thought about the day. It was not an easy life, but it was a real life. A day in the past. Lived with my family, food, and simple work. And then I fell asleep. Okay, and that was my story, my day in the past. It was not fast and it was not modern. It was simple, hard, and quiet. Thank you, my friends, for listening to English Unleashed. I hope this story helped you practice the past tense. Until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep believing in yourself. Bye for now. feel lost. You say, I don't understand anything. This is why many learners never improve their listening. They depend on subtitles. Subtitles become like a crutch, something you cannot walk without. Today, I want to show you a new way, a better way, a way to train your ears and your brain so you can understand English naturally without reading. So, let me ask you, what if I told you that there is a secret? A simple secret that most learners miss. It is not about memorizing more words. It is not about listening for 10 hours a day. It is about how you listen. It is about training your brain step by step until English sounds clear, until English feels natural. This is what we will explore together. All right, the first step is to choose the right kind of material. This sounds simple, but many learners make a mistake here. They choose something that is far too difficult. They turn on the news in English. The news is very fast. The speakers talk quickly. Or learners choose a complicated movie, a difficult movie. The actors speak fast. They use slang. They use jokes. And sometimes the sound is not clear. When learners listen to these things, they often feel sad. They feel disappointed. They say, my English is bad. I cannot understand anything. But let me tell you something. This is not your fault. It is not because you are bad at English. It is not because you cannot learn. It is simply the wrong choice. The problem is not you. The problem is the material. If you try to climb a very high mountain on your first day, of course you will fall. But if you start with a small hill, you can walk, you can climb, and you can succeed. Listening is the same. At the beginning, you need what I call high context English, okay? What does this mean? Well, high context means that you can understand the situation, the action, and the meaning even when you do not understand every single word. You do not feel lost. You can guess what is happening. Let me give you an example. Imagine you are watching a children's cartoon in English. In the cartoon, the characters move a lot. The pictures show you the story. A child wakes up, washes his face, eats breakfast, and goes to school. The pictures help you understand, even if you do not catch all the words. You see the action, you hear the words, and your brain connects them together. So you understand. Another example is a simple story podcast for learners. The narrator speaks slowly. The sentences are short. The story is about daily life. I brush my teeth. I eat breakfast. I go to school. These are actions you already know. These are routines you live every day. Because you know them, your brain can guess the meaning, even when you do not hear every sound clearly. This is high context listening. High context listening is powerful because it gives you confidence. You do not feel like you are drowning in the middle of a big ocean of English words. You feel like you are standing in shallow water. The water is safe. You can swim a little. You can move. You can practice. And when you feel stronger, you can go deeper. It is the same with listening. At the beginning, choose simple, high context material. A cartoon, a story, a short podcast, something clear, something predictable. When you do this, your brain learns to connect sound with meaning. Your ears become stronger, and day by day, little by little, you will be ready for more difficult listening. Okay, let's move to the next step. This step is about how you listen. Many learners press play, listen once, and then stop. They say, I don't understand. They feel frustrated and they give up. But listening only once is not enough. Your brain needs more time. Your ears need more training. That's why I use something I call the 3-listen rule, okay? The 3-listen rule. The 3-listen rule is very simple, but it's very powerful. It means that you listen to the same thing 3 times. Not once, not twice, 3 times. And each time you listen, you have a different goal. The first listen is for gist. Gist means the big picture, the overall meaning. You're not trying to understand every single word. You're not trying to catch every sound. You are only asking yourself, what is this about? That's all. For example, you listen to a short story. You may not understand all the words, but you understand that it is about travel. Or maybe it is about food. Or maybe it is about a family at home. That's enough. You got the gist. You got the big picture. The second listen is different. Now you listen for key phrases. A key phrase is a group of words that gives meaning. A key phrase is often repeated. A key phrase is often important in the story. For example, you may hear the phrase, I woke up early. You may hear, I went to the shop. You may hear, I felt tired. When you listen the second time, you begin to notice these phrases. They start to sound familiar. You begin to remember how they sound together, not just as a single word. The third listen is for details. Details are the small pieces of information. Maybe you hear that the person woke up at 7 o'clock. Maybe you hear that they bought 3 apples. Maybe you hear that it was raining. These are details. When you listen the third time, you do not worry if you miss some words, but you try to notice a few of these details. They make the story more clear. They make the meaning richer. So you see, the 3-listen rule is like looking at a picture. The first time, you stand far away. You see the big shape. The second time, you come closer. You see the lines, the patterns. The third time, you stand very close. You see the small colors, the small objects. Together, all 3 views give you a full picture. It is the same with listening. The first listen gives you the gist. The second listen gives you the phrases. The third listen gives you the details. Okay, now let's talk about something that makes many learners worried. It is the idea that they must understand every single word. Many learners think, if I don't understand all the words, then I understand nothing. They panic when they miss a word. They stop listening. They feel like a failure. But let me tell you a secret. Even native speakers do not understand every word all the time. Yeah, that is true. Imagine two native speakers are talking and one person uses a new word, maybe a difficult technical word. The other person does not know it. But do they stop and say, "Oh no, I cannot understand English"? They just keep listening. They focus on the meaning. They understand from the other words, from the situation, from the context, what that word means. This is what you must do too. Real listening is not about catching 100% of the words. Real listening is about catching the message. It is about understanding the story, even if a few words are missing. Let me give you an example. Imagine a friend says, "Hey, do you want to grab a coffee later?" Maybe you don't understand the word grab, right? That's okay. You hear coffee. You hear later. You hear the question sound in their voice. And you understand this person wants to drink coffee with me. That is the meaning, and that's enough. This is how listening works in real life. You pick up the important words, you connect them to the situation. Your brain fills the gaps, and step by step, your understanding grows. So tell yourself this: I do not need every word. I need the message. This is the way to build real listening confidence. So, now let's put all of this into action. How can you practice every day? First, choose something simple. Do not choose a long, difficult movie. Choose a short podcast. Choose a simple video, something with a clear topic. Second, listen without subtitles. This is the most important part. Do not let your eyes do the work. Trust your ears. Use the 3-listen rule. First, listen for the gist, the big idea. Then, listen again for phrases, the expressions that repeat. Then, listen one more time for details, the small pieces of information. Here, you can use subtitles, okay? You can check the words and expressions you didn't catch. So, repeat this every day. Even 10 minutes is enough. The secret is not listening once a week. The secret is daily practice. Every day, your brain learns a little more. Every day, your ears get stronger. Thank you so much for joining me today on English Unleashed. I'm Tom, and until next time, keep listening, keep practicing, and keep believing in yourself. Bye for now.
This is the basic key to communication.
This is very easy. There are a few very common and useful patterns. The first one is, my name is Tom. Okay? My name is Tom. The second one is, I'm Tom. Okay, so both are correct. My name's Tom, or I'm Tom.
Now, let's listen to some examples. I can say, my name's Becky. Or I can say, I'm Becky. Both are correct. Both are natural.
Yeah, and you can also add more detail if you want. My full name is Thomas, but people call me Tom. That's true for me. Officially, on my passport, it says Thomas, but in daily life, everyone calls me Tom.
Same for me. My full name is Rebecca, but honestly, nobody calls me Rebecca. So I usually say, my name's Rebecca, but my friends call me Becky.
This phrase, people call me something, is very useful when you have a nickname or a short version of your name. It makes the introduction more personal.
Yes, here are some more examples. My name is Alexander, but people call me Alex. My name is Catherine, but people call me Kate.
Perfect. You see, you can use this pattern in many situations.
Now, Tom, here is a little cultural tip. In English-speaking countries, people usually use short names or friendly names very quickly. So don't be surprised if someone shortens your name after only meeting you once. It's not rude. It's not impolite. It's usually a sign of friendliness.
That's a good point, Becky. When I first started teaching, some of my students called me Mr. Thomas, but later I asked them to call me Tom, and that felt more relaxed.
Yes, so you can decide how formal or informal you want to be. My name is Rebecca feels formal. I'm Becky feels more friendly.
All right. After you say your name, the next very common question is, where are you from? People ask this almost everywhere in the world. It's a friendly way to start a conversation, and it helps people understand you better.
Yeah, the basic and most useful pattern is I'm from the United States. I'm from Spain. I'm from Japan. I'm from